All right, hello. Let's get, how about we just get right into it? I'm always spending so much time talking. We've been together long enough. Let's just get right into it. So I'm going to share a screen with you. And there's the Zoom thing. There's the let's hide the floating meeting controls. Let's X out of this. Already have the flashcard set up. This is where we are, conversation design. Explore conversation design, explore conversation design, okay, Anthony, stop that. All right, let's just get into it. All right. What is conversation design? Conversation design, CXD for short, refers to the concepts, strategies, and practice of designing conversations to build better relationships with customers at scale. How do good conversation design help build customer relationship? Good conversation design helps customers do what they need to do with a brand, helps brands develop their relationship with customers, and leaves customers feeling good about their experience with the brand and wanting to do business with the brand again. In what ways can bad conversation design erode trust? Bad conversation design makes the customer feel unheard or unseen by the brand, misconstrues a user's gender identity, racially profiles customers, or otherwise exhibits biases and leaves customers feeling annoyed, frustrated, or otherwise not wanting to do business with that brand any longer. How is conversation design different from graphical design? Conversation design is not graphical design. Graphical design is grounded largely in visuals, while conversation design is all about the words and the language. What is conversation design, or how is conversation design from writing dialogues? Conversation design is not writing dialogues. Conversation design leverages decades of research on linguistic patterns to build a strategic system of communication, from how to take turns to how to cultivate a specific tone. When is conversation design relevant? Conversation design is relevant when any aspect of the product experiences Conversation design is relevant when any aspect of the product experience involves conversation, or if there's any turn taking going on in a dialogue between your product and the user. How can conversation design help a brand? Conversation design helps a brand foster great customer relationships, minimize pain points, and build customer trust. What is the importance of bringing on conversation designer at the beginning of the process? Onboarding a conversation designer at the beginning of the process makes the whole of the product experience better for the users. What is the goal of conversation design? The goal of conversation design is to design conversations that build better relationships between a company, its customers, and the rest of the world. What is the difference between human-to-human conversations and conversations between bots and humans? Humans can talk to other people in person, over the phone, or through email or real-time chats. Bots have much more limited range than humans when it comes to conversation, and they can't go off script. All right, let's take a test. How do we define conversation design? The font you use when texting, the proper way to speak to your manager in the workplace, the practice of building better relationships with customers at scale through conversation, developing new coding language for building customer chatbots. I think we know the answer. When is conversation design relevant to the product experience you're working on? Always, when an aspect of the experience involves conversation, when any turn taking is going on in a dialogue between your product and the user. D, B, and C. D, B, and C. All right, that was pretty cool. 100 points, like it. Understand the conversation design process. What is conversation design? Conversation design is being strategic and systematic about what you say and how you say it. It takes thought and planning, collaboration, and efforts. What are the 4 steps of the conversation design process? Discover, ideate, prototype, and revise. Who are the stakeholders involved in a conversation design project? Documentation, content strategy, content experience, subject matter expert from the domain of conversation, marketing, user experience design, legal, engineering, project product owner, systems tools admins, business analyst, data scientist. What are the tasks of a conversation designer? Context setting, stakeholder alignment, and gathering requirements, research, creating a vision for the user experience, creating an information architecture and copy, revisions, testing, and quality assurance. What does a conversation designer create? A vision of what conversation experience looks like, what you think your bot will do, an information architecture flowchart, sample dialogues, prototype or video demo, annotated transcript, and information architecture for the bot. What is the goal of conversation design? To create a conversation experience that delights users. What are the two families of tasks that conversation designers focus on? Context setting, stakeholder alignment, and gathering requirements, and creating the architecture and copy that power the bot and revising, testing it ahead of launch. What are the roles of the marketing and legal teams in conversation design? The marketing team ensures that the bot's styles is in line with the corporate brand and voice. The legal team makes sure that the bot does not break any laws or put the organization in legally fraught situations, and do not ask users for information they are not allowed to ask for. What is the role of the engineering team in conversation design? Most bot builder software offers basic tools, but engineering is needed to customize the way the voice sounds, pitch, rate of speech, and so on. What is the role of the project product owner in conversation design? The project product owner coordinates efforts across engineering, marketing, and other teams in the organization. All right, let's take a test. Which of these describes a conversation design process at a high level? Discover, ideate, prototype, revise. Listen, infer, hypothesize, speak. Ideate, discover, revise, prototype. Lather, rinse, repeat. Definitely not B or C. A and C have the same exact answers, but in different orders. I remember ideate was not the first word because it's a funny word. So every time I see it, I remember it, and it was not the first word. So I'm going to go with A. If you're designing a customer service chatbot, which stakeholders should you partner with? The customer, a user researcher, a representative of your competitor's disgruntled customers, a domain expert who works in customer service. If you're designing a customer service chatbot, which stakeholders should you partner with? A domain expert who works in customer service. Right? If you can do a customer service chatbot, you should probably partner with someone with an expert that's in customer service. Okay, get started with conversation design strategies. What is conversational style? Conversational style is how we talk. Everything we say comes out in some kind of way, and that way is your style. Your style might be more formal, my style could be more casual, and somebody else's style might be heavily steeped in local vernacular and response times common to where they grew up. What is markedness? In linguistics, we say that something is marked when it deviates or stands out from a more common form. What is the purpose of discourse markers? Discourse markers are words or phrases that help structure the flow of a conversation. These markers may seem like filler words, but they function as signals of understanding or connection in discourse. How do you create actionable intents? Start with a verb and match it with a noun to create actionable intents. What is the importance of deciding on a conversational style? Pick a conversational style and stick to it. Your style isn't expressed only by the words you program your chatbot to use. Things like intensifiers, explanation points, and even setting the bot response delay all in. Wait, Things like intensifiers, explanation points, and even setting the bot response delay all inform your conversational style. What is the purpose of descriptive language? Be descriptive, not prescriptive, when designing conversations. Descriptive means looking at what your users are saying and trying to understand and make meaning from it. Prescriptive means judging how your users are speaking and telling them how you think they should be talking. What is the goal of conversation design? The goal of conversation design is to design bots that are easily used by many users, whatever their conversation styles, in order to create more potential customers. How is linguistics important in conversation design? Linguistics is the science of how language works, and it tells us how to design a conversation that feels natural. What is the most important takeaway from conversation design? The most important takeaway from conversation design should be inclusive. Embrace the different ways people talk and type, and design conversations that accommodate all the best you can. What is the importance of using purposeful markers? Deviate from your conversational style with purpose by using purposeful marks to express different things in your conversation. This will allow you to create more meaningful conversation with your users. All right, let's take a test. What happens when you embrace variation in language? You welcome more people to the conversation, you drive your stock price down, you help customers by teaching them proper grammar, more people feel excluded. I don't even think they're trying to challenge us anymore. 3 of those answers are just crazy town USA. How do topic and action relate in conversation design? The topic tells the user how to behave. The topic is everything, the action is unnecessary. Topics narrow the scope of the conversation, actions move the conversation forward, topics speak louder than words. I mean, if I don't get both of these right, I don't even want to say the answer out loud. That was just silly. Let's go ahead and post it on Facebook this time. Right? Is it gonna open it or? Is this? All right, so let's post Facebook. Let's post it to Twitter too, why not, right? Totally cool. All right, so let's move it forward. Inclusive design. All right, cool, here we go. What is the definition of inclusive design? Inclusive design is the practice of designing solutions that offers a diversity of ways for people to participate and contribute to the experience. Hold on one second, I just want to make sure that actually posted to Facebook. All right, cool. All right, let's read that again. What is the definition of inclusive design? Inclusive design is the practice of designing solutions that offer a diversity of ways for people to participate and contribute to an experience. What are the 3 fears of inclusion? That they'll say the wrong thing, that they'll have to create a lowest common denominator to design, that they won't have enough people, time, and money to make a meaningful change. How is design different from universal design? How is inclusive design different from universal design? Inclusive design is focused on designing solutions that offer a diversity of ways for people to participate in and contribute to an experience. Universal design is rooted in architecture and environmental design, and is focused on designing one solution that serves all people with minimal adaptation. Who are exclusion experts? Exclusion experts are people who have experienced the greatest degrees of exclusion in their lives and are experts at recognizing exclusion. They have deep insights about how they adapt solutions to their specific needs. What are 3 principles What three principles should be kept in mind when practicing inclusive design? Recognize exclusion, learn from diversity, solve for one, extend to many. What are mismatches? Mismatches are barriers to how we interact or how we fit with the physical or digital worlds around us. They are the results of the way products or experiences are designed, and they are the building blocks of exclusion. What effect do mismatches have on people? When we experience exclusion, we may feel a sense of rejection, which affects our sense of belonging. What is the best way to approach inclusion? We have to recognize exclusion first and commit to understanding the types of habits or practices that can lead to exclusion. Then we can begin to shift towards inclusion in how we design products and experiences. What are the benefits of inclusive design? Inclusive design can help create a shared experience that helps create a sense of belonging, as well as benefit society in broad, immeasurable ways. What is the ultimate goal of inclusive design? The ultimate goal of inclusive design is to design solutions that offer a diversity of ways for people to participate in and contribute to an experience. All right, let's answer some questions. Which of the following is true about inclusive design? Inclusive design is the same as universal design. Inclusive design means creating a diversity of ways for people to participate. It's important to learn from exclusion experts during the inclusive design process, and D and E are combinations. But before I look at them, I'm fairly certain that it's B and C. So if one of those are B and C, that's the one we're going to select. D, B and C. All right, cool. Now, E, A, and B, do we have any expectation A is even partially correct? Inclusive design is the same as universal design? Because if that were true, they wouldn't be titled differently. It'd be the same word. What are three inclusive design principles? Recognize inclusion, ignore diversity, one size fits all. In what world would that ever be a Salesforce answer? Recognize exclusion, learn from diversity, solve for one, extend to many. I'm already going to click it, but that does not give you license to not read C and D. Recognize diversity, learn from experts, focus on one person. Recognize imperfection, learn from diversity, one size fits one. We're just going to go with B. Recognize exclusion, learn from diversity, solve for one, extend to many. 100 points. How you like me now? All right, let's continue. What is the shut-in, shut-out model of exclusion? It is a centuries-old model of exclusion which leads to a fixed way of thinking about inclusion. It is represented by a closed circle with the in group inside the circle and the excluded group on the outside. What is the cycle of exclusion? Excuse me. The cycle of exclusion is a framework the cycle of exclusion is a framework which examines mismatches, the building blocks of exclusion, and identifies the habits that perpetuate exclusion. It is composed of 5 interrelated elements: why we make, who makes it, how we make, who uses it, and how we make, and what we make. Maybe I could read one day. What is an exclusion habit? An exclusion habit is any design practice or choice that lead to or perpetuate exclusion. They are hard habits to break because we often believe we don't have the power to make changes. What is the risk of a hero complex when implementing inclusive design practices? The risk of a hero complex is wanting to be the hero who saves the day with a design by making assumptions about what products or solutions a group might need. This can lead to trouble and fail miserably. What is the shut-in, shut-out model of exclusion represented by? The shut-in, shut-out model of exclusion is represented by a closed circle with the in-group inside the circle and the excluded group on the outside. What is the cycle of exclusion composed of? The cycle of exclusion is composed of 5 interrelated elements: why we make, who makes it, how we make, who uses it, and what we make. What can interrupt the autopilot nature of exclusion habits? Asking questions using the cycle of exclusion can interrupt the autopilot nature of exclusion habits. What should be avoided when implementing inclusive design practices? Avoid wanting to be the hero who saves the day with a design by making assumptions about what products or solutions a group might need. What is the good news in regards to implementing inclusive design practices? The good news is that you can start your journey on any of the elements in the cycle of exclusion. What is the benefit of prioritizing inclusion in the product development process? The sooner you prioritize inclusion in the product development process, the less expensive it will be in the long run. All right, let's answer some questions. What is the key difference between the shut-in, shut-out model of exclusion and the cycle of exclusion? The shut-in, shut-out model is the best way to approach inclusion. The shut-in, shut-out model of exclusion is a fixed approach. The cycle of exclusion is always in motion. Exclusion can happen at any point in the cycle. B and C, A and C. All right, I don't know if I know the answer. What's the key difference between the shut-in, shut-out model of exclusion and the cycle of exclusion? So let's kind of think of an answer for ourselves. The shut-in, shut-out is the in crowd surrounded by the outside people, and the cycle is just that, like it's something that is perpetuated, it continues. So how can those two things be different? Well, one leads to the other. So let's kind of look at the answers again. The shut-in, shut-out model is the best way to approach inclusion. No, I think it defines exclusion, right? The shut-in, shut-out model of exclusion is a fixed approach. I think it's fixed. They were talking about how it's since the beginning of time, so that sounds fixed. 60% of the answers is C, because D is B and C, E is A and C, and C is obviously C. So we know C is an answer. The cycle of exclusion is always in motion. Exclusion can happen at any point in the cycle. So it's either B and C or just C. What we've learned so far is that when given a two-letter answer, about 90% of the time it has been that. I think only once or twice it hasn't been, so we're going to lean towards that. So we're gonna go D, B, and C. And if we're incorrect, we'll go to actually just C, because we don't believe A is correct. Number 2, how can the 5 elements of the cycle of exclusion help during the design process? The 5 elements help you find your center so that you can design from a wholesome perspective. The 5 elements are questions you can ask during the design process to help identify potential mismatches and exclusion habits. The 5 elements have to be addressed at the same time. The 5 elements help you so you can be on autopilot during the design process. So B is the 5 elements are questions you can ask during the design process to help identify potential mismatches and exclusion habits. I like that answer. D, the 5 elements help you so that you could be on autopilot during the design process. I don't know their definition of autopilot, because what I'm thinking is I don't have to think about potential mismatches because these 5 questions will solve it every time. So at any point I could just stop and ask the questions mechanically, which means I don't have to problem solve, which means I can be on autopilot. I could just ask the questions and find the answer. But I'm not sure my definition of autopilot and Salesforce is going to be the same. So rather than make that assumption, I'm going to go with B. But if B is not the answer, we will switch to D. All right, we got them both right. What's that, 5 quizzes in a row of perfect scores? We are just, Okay, what is the social definition of disability? The social definition of disability recognizes that disability is a mismatch between a person's abilities and the environment or points of interaction. I'm gonna have a sip of water. What is an ability bias? An ability bias is the habit of using our own abilities as the baseline to solve problems. What are the 5 elements of the cycle of exclusion? Asking who makes and how we make a solution, recognizing the habits that perpetuate mismatches, expanding our definition of who's a designer, identifying ability biases, and creating a diversity of ways to participate in an experience. What are the skills for successful inclusive designers? Identify ability bias and mismatched interactions between people in the world, create a diversity of ways to participate in an experience, and design for independence and bring a complementary skills together. Excuse me. What is the medical model of disability? The medical model, excuse me. The medical model of disability describes disability as the result of a psychological, I don't think that's how you spell psychological, as a result of the psychological cognitive difference. What is interdependence? Interdependence is about creating interactions that allow people to contribute their skills in complementary ways and also collectively. Who are exclusion experts? Exclusion experts are people who have experienced a high degree of exclusion and are experts at recognizing exclusion. What does it mean for a designer to come from a traditional design background? A designer from a traditional design background will have had formal training in a design-related field. Why is diversity of ways to participate important? The diversity of ways to participate is important because it leads to accessibility and means that more people will be able to participate. What is the goal of inclusive design practices? The goal of inclusive design practices is to seek out exclusion experts early on and invite them to participate in the design process. All right, let's take a test. A successful inclusive designer practices skills such as identifying ability bias and mismatched interactions between people in the world, creating a diversity of ways to participate in an experience, designing the best way to use a product, A and B or A and C. So we know the answer is A because it's 60% of the available answers. So is it B or C? Creating a diversity of ways to participate in an experience or designing the best way to use a product. So designing the best way to use a product is for one person, right? By nature, if you're designing something, the design is fixed. Therefore, those that can use it, and those that can't. And I'm not sure that meets the definition of being inclusive. B is creating a diversity of ways to participate in an experience. So B is kind of like the designer designing many designs. So I'm going to go with A and B. What's the difference between the social definition and medical definition of disability? The social definition means that people talk more. The social definition recognizes that disability is about mismatches between the features of a person's body and the world around them. I like B. C, the medical model of disability describes disability as a result of physiological or cognitive difference. So that's kind of funny. What's the difference between social definition and medical definition? B tells you the social, C tells you the medical. There's no one answer that actually gives you the difference. They kind of just define each part of it. So you have to select two. And if you like B and you have to select two, and one of the answers is 2, which includes B, you just have to do it. So another 100 points. And by the way, I think out loud purposely so that you can see that there is an art in taking tests. Yes, knowing the content's important, but if you don't know how to take a test, you're gonna have a problem. And I would actually argue that knowing how to take a test will yield you a higher score than knowing the content. Probably not by much, but on average, I think that's true. Meaning if you know how to do both, you'll be in the 90th percentile fairly often. All right, let's continue. What is the difference between designing with and designing for? Designing with involves co-designing with experts from a particular group, while designing for involves making assumptions about a particular group. What is the persona spectrum? The persona spectrum is a continuum of types of people who might interact with a product, focusing on human dimensions across the physical, cognitive, emotional, and societal aspects. Who has Adolphe Quatlet? You know what? Let's read that.
3. Who was Adolphe Quatlet?
Who knows?
Answer. Adolphe Quatlet was a 19th century Belgian astronomer and mathematician who used the Gaussian distribution as his guiding principle to collect and plot data about human bodies.
So that was wildly easy. I could just leave that read on, but there is, again, so not only is there a way to take a test, but there's a way to study for a test. Your body is amazing. Your mind is amazing. It has a thing called muscle memory. There is a neuroplasticity that is stretched when you go ahead and access it. Me reading these questions out loud is important to my ability to retain them. So I'm not going to press read. For some people, it might be easier to press read because maybe you're, out and about and you just want to listen to something. So know your style, but in knowing your style, don't confuse it or mask being lazy with a style choice. What is the 80-20 rule? The 80-20 rule is used to describe how 80% of the land in Italy was owned by 20% of the population, which then became related to the quality control. 80% of the problems come from 20% of the causes. What is big data? Big data is massive amounts of data available from every device constantly tracking our behaviors and patterns. What is thick data? Thick data is information that helps us understand how people feel, think, and react, providing context for behaviors and motivations. What is the purpose of a persona spectrum? The purpose of a persona spectrum is to identify mismatches in how people interact with products and learn from people who experience the most mismatches. What is the intention of closed captioning? The intention of closed captioning was to provide a way for those who have hearing loss to participate more fully in the act of watching television. What is the difference between universal design and inclusive design? Universal design is a one-size-fits-all, while inclusive design is one-size-fits-one. What is the purpose of individual fit? The purpose of individual fit is to ensure designs intended for the mythical average end up serving everyone. All right, let's answer some questions. What is one of the benefits of working with exclusion experts instead of designing for them? People don't know what they want, so you have to design for them. Okay. You get more insights from exclusion experts who can help you create a product or solution. You get less input from the community, you have less research to do. So C and D are obviously not good answers. What is one of the benefits of working with exclusion experts instead of designing for them? A, people don't know what they want, so you have to design for them. B, you get more insights from exclusion experts who can help you create a better product or solution. I honestly think the answer is A, but I think it is worded way too aggressively for Salesforce to present it as a correct answer. Because the reality is people don't know what they want. You do have to design for them. In fact, that's almost a direct quote from Steve Jobs when talking about the iPhone. But I don't think Salesforce would present an answer that is worded, people don't know what they want, so you have to kind of give it to them. Although it's true, I just don't think it's the correct answer. So we're gonna go with B, because it sounds much more of a Boy Scout answer. You get more insights from exclusion experts who can help you create a better product or solution. Like that sounds like a Salesforce answer. 2, what are ways the persona spectrum informs the design process? The persona spectrum helps designers identify those who experience the most mismatches in the human motivations behind product interactions. I want to read the question again because I already lost it in that sentence. What are ways the persona spectrum helps inform the design process? Okay, B, the persona spectrum is a way to identify the average user. C, the persona spectrum covers physical, cognitive, emotional, and societal dimensions of humans. We know C is a correct answer because it's 60%, it's C, and then it's a combination of both D and E. So now is A or B the answer? A is the persona spectrum helps designers identify those who experience the most mismatches and human motivations. So that's not it. B, the persona spectrum is a way to identify the average user. I think so. So it's B and C. You know what? I was thinking about not actually doing that because the word average was in B. And the second I pressed it, I'm like, watch, this is going to be the moment. We're going to go with just C. It wasn't even just C, so A and C? That's so funny. Okay, so A was the right answer. Tackle the next unit. Okay. Design for our future selves. What is inclusive design? Inclusive design is a one size fits one, or how a product adapts to fit each unique person. What is the curb cut effect? The curb cut effect is when a solution that serves one community ultimately can benefit us all. How can leaders support inclusion? Leaders can support inclusion by making promises they can keep, setting the expectation that inclusion is a long game, rewarding inclusion, and bringing people along the process. What is the thought exercise about a brick? The thought exercise about a brick is to consider all the different ways of using it and imagining it could be more than what it appears to be. What are the 4 ways leaders can support inclusion practices? Make promises they can keep, set the expectation that inclusion is a long game, reward inclusion, and bring people along in the process. What is the outcome of practicing inclusive design from the start of the product development cycle? Practicing inclusive design from the start of the product development cycle leads to innovation and product differentiation, stronger customer engagement, and a larger customer base. What is the risk of retrofitting inclusion? Retrofitting inclusion increases risk and will cost more than investing in it from the beginning, may result in a product not meeting accessibility standards, and can draw a public outcry. What are the 4 learning objectives after completing this unit? Summarize key inclusive design principles, discuss ways to make a business case for inclusion, explain 4 ways leaders can support inclusion practices, and practice regularly and with intention to be able to internalize and the necessary skills. What is the purpose of the flexible straw? The flexible straw was invented by a dad after he saw his young son struggle to drink a milkshake. What does the brick thought exercise demonstrate? The brick thought exercise demonstrates that a solution that serves one community ultimately can benefit us all, and changing the shape, context, or purpose of an object gives it new meaning. All right, let's do better than that last test. Okay, what are some reasons you can cite to build a business case for inclusion? Inclusion leads to high cost and therefore isn't worth it. Definitely not. Inclusion can lead to innovation and differentiation. Yes. Inclusive products appeal to a broad market and help increase customer engagement. Yes, B and C. So D, B and C. What is a way for leadership to support inclusion? Leaders should set expectations that inclusion is a long game. Leaders should tell the truth about where the company stands with inclusion. Leaders shouldn't reward inclusive practices. So definitely B, and you could see B is 60% of the answers. And then I would go with A. I believe I remember something about inclusion being a long game. So D, A and B. All right, let's go ahead and post it on Facebook. Let everyone know we are so super cool. Look at us. And let's post it on Twitter. Why not, right? Okay. Let's go to Cert Prep. Oh, so we're actually on the next chapter. So it's Cert Prep, Administrative Configuration, Setup, and Objects. So now things are really starting to pick up. So the first one is, I thought it was, let me see something. Come on. Oh yeah, so declarative design is the name of the task. The module is Cert Prep. Okay, so we're in the right place. Just wanted to double check. Okay. See, getting started. All right, let's go. What is the recommended experience for taking the Salesforce Administrator Certification exam? 6 months hands-on experience as an administrator. How many questions are on the Salesforce Administrator Certification exam? 60. What is the passing score for the Salesforce Administrator Certification exam? 65. How much does it cost to take the Salesforce Administrator Certification exam? $200. What topics are tested on the Salesforce Administrator Certification exam? Configuration and setup, Object Manager and Lightning App Builder, sales and marketing applications, service and support applications, productivity and collaboration, data and analytics management, workflow process automation. What resources can you use to prepare for the Salesforce Administrator Certification exam? Real-world scenarios, interactive flashcards, links to resources, and key topic areas from the study guide, Trailblazer community, Salesforce approved study materials. How often do Salesforce credential holders need to complete release maintenance modules? Once per year. What are the consequences for violating the Salesforce certification program agreement? Cancellations of upcoming and in-progress certification exams, suspension from earning or revocation of Salesforce credentials, removal from the Salesforce credential program and/or Trailblazer community. What can be referenced during the Salesforce Administrative Certification exam? No hard copy or online materials can be referenced during the exam. How do you access the printable version of the study guide for the Salesforce Administrative Certification exam? Download the Administrator Certification Prep Configuration Setup and Object Guide. All right, let's get to it. So even more importantly, as you see on this page, you have the exam preps, right? So you're going to come back to this and we will make a note of it, right? We'll put it in our study material, but there are links that you're going to want to download here that will help you. Now, of course, this is to be a user experience designer, not an administrator. But let's say you are at this point and you're like, you know what, I learned all I could learn. I cannot learn anymore. There is a place for you and it's administrator right here. So let's go take some questions. As a participant in the Salesforce certification program, what should you do to prep for exams? Study practice questions on Flashcards site you found on the internet. That sounds way too vague and way too dangerous for Salesforce to ever get behind that. Use study materials found on Trailhead, like exam guides and Trailhead modules. Well, that sounds like a great answer. Submit a case with the credential security team if you see any activity that undermines credential security. What? Ask a friend for help answering specific exam questions. No. As a participant in the Salesforce certification program, what should you do to prep for exams? So we know B is an answer, because even E is B and C. But the fact that E is B and C gives me a little bit of pause on C. Submit a case with the credential security team if you see any activity that undermines credential security. I don't know how that helps you prep for an exam. I could see that helping you being a valued member. So I'm going to go with just B. Which administrative certification exam objective is weighed at 14%? So let's just scroll up. 14%, data and analytics management. So we got that wrong, B. Don't even tell me it's B and C. I gotta tell you, Salesforce is absolutely addicted to like the answer that combines other answers. Like anything that's D, B, and C, they love it. Okay, so for the next unit, they actually have their own flashcards. So we're just going to go through these and then use them to answer the questions. So Salesforce users at Urs, I'm not gonna say the whole fake company name because there's no reason to. Salesforce users at Ursa complain that global search returns too many records. Which two configurations should an administrator perform to help users manage search results? Specify the search filter fields for the object search layout. Reduce the number of records displayed for each object in the search results page. List view. A list of records that meet a specific filter criteria. What are two reasons a user cannot be deactivated? The user is the recipient of workflow email alerts. The user is a customer community administrator. User license. A user license determines the baseline of features that the user can access. Every user must have exactly one user license. You assign user permissions for data access through a profile and optionally one or more permission sets. Permission set. A permission set is a collection of settings and permissions that give users access to various tools and functions. The settings and permissions in permission sets are also found in profiles, but permission sets extend users' functional access without changing their profiles. Profile defines how users access objects and data and what they can do within the application. When you create users, you assign a profile to each one. How can a system administrator discover who added a field to the account page layout? Use the setup audit trail. Ursa uses a private sharing model for cases. Each product line has several product specialists who want to have visibility to all cases involving their product line. How should the administrator meet this requirement? Create a predefined case team for each group of product specialists and assign the team using case assignment rules. Organization-wide sharing default, OWD. Defines the default access level for an object's records with organization-wide sharing settings. Can be set separately for custom objects and many standard objects, including assets, campaigns, cases, and accounts and their contracts. Ursa has 3 customer record types: prospect, customer, and vendor. The customer record type is only for accounts that have a closed won opportunity. How should a system administrator prevent users from selecting the customer record type when they create new account records? A system administrator cannot share a report folder. What is a possible reason? Oh, I didn't actually answer the question. Hold on. Remove the customer record type as an assigned record type in the user's profile and permission sets. A system administrator cannot share a report folder. What is the possible reason? The folder is private. Sharing rules. Give chosen users greater access by making automatic exceptions to your org-wide sharing settings. Used to extend sharing access to users in public groups, roles, or territories. Role hierarchy. Salesforce offers a user role hierarchy that you can use with sharing settings to determine the levels of access the users have to Salesforce org's data. Roles within the hierarchy affect access on key components such as records and reports. Okay, and these are related badges. Looking for more information, explore these related badges. Data security, prepare, blah, 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 blah. All right, cool. Let's go to some questions. The configuration and setup section makes up what percentage of the administrative certification exam? What was that? That was the configuration and setup section. I know where to find that. Configuration and setup is 20%. Which key topics are covered in the configuration and setup section of the administrator certification exam? Where was that said to us? Oh, we would have had to have read this. Oh, we browsed right through it and went straight to the flashcards. Okay, so these are the key topics. All right, so which key topics are covered in the configuration setup section? Local settings, chatter. Actually, let's just read it first, right? UI features, company information, local settings, search results, list views, currency management, fiscal year, default settings, homepage layouts, user management, security settings, sharing settings. Okay, A, local settings, chatter, list views, data load, and note. B, product price, nope. C, search results, chatter, opportunities, campaigns, maybe. D, UI features, company information, local settings. I don't remember reading UI features. Did I? Oh, I did. Okay. Company information, local settings, company information, local settings. Yeah, it's D. Cool, 100 points. Now the next one is the same with the flashcards, right? So now that we know, we have to take a look at the top, key topics. Okay, so first, Object Manager and Lightning App Builder of the Salesforce Administrator exam, which makes up 20% of the overall exam. Object architecture, object relationships, creating, editing, and deleting fields, creating and assigning page layouts, creating and assigning record types, creating and assigning business processes, creating custom objects. Okay. Exam topic flashcards. A delegated administrator at URSA cannot edit the created data field for the account record. What reason should the administrator give for why this is occurring? This is a system audit field and it's read-only for existing records. URSA wants to create a field to store credit card numbers and needs to make sure the information is protected. What two actions allow the administrator to provide enhanced security for this field? Create an encrypted text file field, update field level security settings. URSA has a renewal sales team that uses the opportunity object. The team wants to use many of the same pick list fields that are already defined but needs unique pick list values. What feature allows an administrator to maintain the same field for two different teams? All right, record types. Okay, number 4. URSA has a sales team focused on renewals. The team uses many of the same opportunity fields as other teams, but needs different stage values. What should the administrator update to support this requirement? Stage selected values in the sales processes. The customer support team wants to use a different page layout when closing a case. What method should the administrator use to fulfill this request? Case close page layout. Formula field. A read-only field whose value is evaluated from the formula or expression defined by us. You can define formula field on both standard and custom objects. Any change in expression or formula automatically updates the value of the formula field. You can define formula field for 7 types: number, currency, percent, date, date time, checkbox, and text. Custom objects. Objects that you create to store information that's specific to your company or industry. Roll-up summary field. A custom object field that calculates values from related records or the records in a related list. Created to display a value in a master record based on the values of fields in a record. I just read that completely wrong. Created to display a value in a master record based on the values of fields in a detail record. Roll-up summary can be defined on master detail relationship only. Lookup field. Also a one-to-many relationship, but in this relationship, 2 objects has no effect on deletion or security. Child objects are independent. Child objects have separate setting. If you delete the parent object, the child object remains in the system. A child object may or may not have a parent. Master detail. Closely links objects together such that the master record controls certain behaviors or the detail of subdetail record. For example, you can define a 2-object master detail relationship such as account expense report that extends to the relationship of the subdetail records such as account expense report expense line item. You can then perform operations across the master detail subdetail relationship. One-to-many. Relationship with many child objects, but one parent object. Example, many metro cities are associated with one country. This kind of relationship is represented in 4 different forms: master detail, lookup, self, and hierarchical. All right, let's go answer some questions. The Object Manager and Lightning Build section make up what percentage of the Administrator Certification exam? 20. Which key topics? So let's read them again, right? object architecture, object relationships, creating, editing, and deleting fields, creating and assigning page layouts, creating and assigning record types, creating and assigning business processes, creating custom objects. A, reports and dashboards, dynamic content, and customizing page layouts? No. B, object architecture, creating and customizing flows and chatter? No. C, object relationships, creating custom objects and creating and assigning page layouts? Maybe. D, creating and assigning record types, dynamic content, app exchange? No. We're gonna go to C. CC. Okay, cool. All right, so let's go ahead and do some more posting. We are really flying through stuff. I mean, the thing that's taking the longest is the posting to load up. Let's do it on Twitter as well. Let everyone know. Okay. All right, so now we're on custom objects quick look. And if it's what I think it is, then it's gonna be our last of the day. Yeah, so this whole module is only one section. So I decided let's go ahead and do it. And then tomorrow, well, not tomorrow, because tomorrow's Sunday, but then Monday, we'll go ahead and open up with this report and dashboards lightning experience, which is 2,100 points. And I believe this is gonna be some hands-on stuff again. So I'm hopeful that we can have some video as well. So let's just get through this custom objects quick look and, give each other some high fives. All right, so on these flashcards, I have the actual link that you would need to go ahead and do what we just did. It was on those pages. Previous, next. All right, create a custom object. What are objects? Objects are containers for spreadsheet data, account details, customer contacts, location, and regional info, tracking status, and more. What are standard objects? Standard objects are record types that are so common to most businesses that Salesforce includes them automatically. What are custom objects? Custom objects are anything that you define. They are objects you create to store data that is specific to your business. What are some examples of standard objects? Examples of standard objects include lead, opportunity, account, and contact. What is the purpose of creating custom objects? The purpose of creating custom objects is to store data that is specific to a business. How do you create custom objects? To create custom objects, go to Setup, select Object Manager, click Create, Custom Object, enter a label in plural label, check the box for Launch New Custom Tab Wizard after saving the custom object, leave the rest of the values as default, and click Save. What fields should you enter when creating a custom object? When creating a custom object, you should enter a label in plural label. What do you need to do after creating a custom object? After creating a custom object, you need to format it with standard or custom fields within the record to further track data and activities that are meaningful to your business. What are the steps to create a custom object? The steps to create a custom object are to go to Setup, select Object Manager, click Create, Custom Object, enter a label in plural label, check the box for Launch New Custom Tab Wizard. After saving this custom object, leave the rest of the values as default and click Save. What is the new custom object tab page? The new custom object tab page is where you select the style to set the icon to display in the UI for the object. All right, let's answer our last questions of the day. True or false? You can use a custom object to change the name of a Salesforce standard object. I don't actually know that. I don't think so. I think you would just get rid of the old one and put in the new one. I'm looking at the page. Let's see. Try it yourself. For label, object name, for plural, check the boxes, summary. I don't even think they say it. So I think that's false. I don't think it changes the name. I think you just create a new one. Which of the following is true about setting up your Salesforce org? You have to choose between standard and custom objects. You're limited to 3 custom objects. You can begin using standard objects and add customer objects depending on your business's unique needs. You must schedule an energy audit. That's definitely C. All right, we got it. How cool is that? So let's go ahead and do our last postings of the day. Dun, da, 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 dun. Excuse me. Okay, so let's go ahead and stop the share. Okay, great. Well, another good day. We have now completed 3 different chapters. I believe we're 40% through, and the chapter we're on now is 27% of the entire exam. We're going to start with a 2100 point module. I couldn't be more excited. We're really going through this. I mean, let's do share one more time just so you could see this. Where did my thing go? Hold on. I did have it up, right? Like so. Okay. So look at this. We have 20 badges, 7,100 points, and I have the low amount. Anyone that's been participating with us, probably took the opportunity to go ahead and make sure that the answers are correct. So me showing what are correct and what are incorrect likely would have a perfect score. So you're probably closer to like 9,000. That's really impressive. So again, every day is another step, but we're getting there. So love you all. I'll see you, and really, really good job. Really proud of you.